Your device is requested to listen to the Two Factor podcast.
You know, Rachel and Monica were 24 years old on their pilot episode of Friends. Crazy. And the reason why I brought that up is because today's episode, if you've seen the title, is Why You Are Still a Loner. But it's all about making friends. Now, I feel like this is the most common question I get is, Kushi, like, how do you have so many friends and you're literally in your early 20s? Because I hear a lot of people saying it's really, really hard. So today we're going to dissect. We're going to go hot take. We're going to go scams. And then we're going to talk about some of those actionable steps so you can kind of, I don't know, make a friend probably after this podcast. Anyway, let's just get right into it. The hot take. Now, I've made a YouTube video back when, I think like 1 or 2 years back, when I talked about how to make friends. I think this is like something that I've taken with me every single day. I treat everyone like a friend until someone gives me a reason to treat them like a stranger. It sounds really counterintuitive, right? Because when you're growing up, your friends and your family are probably like, don't speak to strangers, hear me out, right? It's all about in here. I'm not telling you to go around and like shake hands with everyone, but it's more about your mindset, right? If I look at and give signals and think that everyone else is someone that won't be warm towards me, they won't want to talk to me, treating everyone as if I'm at a networking event, one of those like really awkward networking events, then I'm never going to really make friends. So for me, I'd like to treat everyone as if everyone's already my friend. I try to talk to them in colloquial language. I try to talk to them as if they're one of my girls in the girls' bathroom. I talk to them like my authentic self and as if I've already known them. Almost like this idea that I've already roamed the earth once before and I'm just meeting everyone for a second time. It sounds really crazy, almost voodoo-like, but in Hinduism, right, there's this whole thing about reincarnation. And so people might be thinking, okay, Kushi, now you're going that religious route. Hear me out. In reincarnation, it's the idea of you've met everyone before. You've been here before. So treat everyone as if you've been here before. So that concept has been ingrained with me for so long. And that's my hot take, is that I like to treat everyone as if I already know them. And essentially, the best way to make friends is finding that commonality. When you think about when you're sitting with your friends, right, it's all about relatability and commonality. You either have something in common, you either have a shared experience, you went to the same school, you met at a workplace. There's always some sort of Venn diagram of your lives that have allowed you to meet each other in the middle. So essentially, if in your brain you already think that you've met everyone before, it means that you've had that shared experience before. So it kind of helps you get into the mindset of making friends. So yeah, my hot take does relate a little bit into reincarnation, super crazy, but also don't treat people like strangers. Treat everyone as a friend until they prove you to treat them as a stranger. So that means if someone is like a dick or is shit or is someone being a bitch, that's okay. You can go into your stranger mode. You can go into your default mode and treat them as if they never entered your life. And it's chill. Okay, so in today's sort of episode, as I always do, I do the hot take, the scams, and the actual steps. But because I'm talking to you guys, I actually sent out a little bit of a Google form and I wanted you guys to send me some of the questions. So that's what I'm going to essentially do. And this is the first question that someone asked me was, have you ever had a moment where you realize, wait, I actually don't have that many close friends? So this is really interesting, right? So this goes back to what I said before, treating everyone as if you've met them before. That's not that difficult, right? Making friends. Making good friends and good connections is actually super hard. As a child, I moved around a lot, right? I grew up in a military family. Mum and dad sent me to billions of schools. I had to do my intro, I think 300 to 400 times. I know that's dramatic. 3 to 4 times. So I kind of got good at reintroducing myself. But because of that, it was really hard to sustain close friends from an early age. I don't have someone that you can say is my childhood best friend. It was a really hard pill to swallow, especially like graduating high school. I felt like I went through high school thinking of that same mentality as like, okay, everyone's my friend. Like I can always say hi to anyone in the corridor. But when it came to like, you know, being really hurt or wanting to just like even go to schoolies and thinking about, okay, who would my group be? I didn't really have that. And it was confronting, especially as someone who people thought, oh my God, she has so many friends. I didn't really have that many close friends. I think a part of that was my sort of response of, okay, if I'm going to get up and move and pack away to the next school, why would I even like bother bringing someone that close? So keeping everyone at a slight distance. But then it was only until I essentially recently left one of my workplaces and I found my people. close friends come with time, okay? Some, they can come with time by brewing over time. You've met them early on and that's just essentially sustained. Or it's kind of like that saying where when you order at a restaurant, you don't think about that your food isn't coming. Yeah, you might get a little bit worried if it's taking like an hour or two, but you always know that it's coming. You've ordered it, it's on the menu, the waiter took your order and it's about to come. You can sit, chat, yap, order a few drinks, order a few appetizers. You know it's coming. So I got into this mentality after school. I was like, okay, I haven't probably found my people and the people that I want to say like are my close friends then, but I always knew that my people were coming. And then they came and I couldn't be more grateful. And I felt like it was almost like a 10, 12-year process to even say that, hey, I think I have a best friend. I have best friends. And then I also realized that one of my best friends just happened to be also my sibling. And why was I disregarding that? Sachi, you cannot cringe at that if you do listen to this. But yeah, so I feel like don't think of close friends as something that you need to have earlier on, and don't think that close friends as something that you'll never attain. They're coming, and if I'm hoping that sort of like menu food analogy helps you guys a little bit. Question 2, what's the loneliness you've ever felt and what got you through it? It was actually after COVID. It was dark. Girl did year 12 in COVID, right? And the thing is, when you're secluded, okay, for a bit of context, so you know how everyone in Victoria, we had like the 5K radius. No one from my school lived where I was. I live like literally on an army barrack. So literally, unless like I had a friend whose parents were also in the army, I didn't really live near anyone, and therefore I couldn't go on those walks and stuff. So I was really secluded from like my friendship group or like people that I would normally hang out at school. And that was my darkest time. Then first year of uni, again, lockdown happened. I could only meet people through Zoom or classes. And even then, like after a few 2 classes, either people just like dip, or 2, they're not going to put their camera on. So like you can't really create that sort of connection. And what got me through that, again, was that menu analogy. But 2, it's like thinking about life as more than just trying to attain those close friends. I felt like I was chasing after something, and I was chasing after it too hard that I actually kind of like scared it away. And what I mean by that is like, this is so vulnerable and so 2-factor, and like, please, you cannot tell anyone that I've said this, but there was a point in time where I was one of those people that downloaded Bumble and then I changed the settings to like friends only, right? Because I wasn't in the whole dating scene or anything like that, but I actually changed to friends only. I would go on my Instagram and check like mutuals of mutuals and start just requesting, just because I wanted to just put myself out there and see who would reach out to me and see if I could develop those connections via the internet or like in some sort of like an indirect way with the resources that I had. And even then, like I felt not pathetic. I felt like I was trying so hard when friendships and friends and being able to just have like a conversation that turns into a coffee and then turns into a friendship, that sort of effortless take on friendship, I felt like I wasn't doing. I felt like I was forcing it, and therefore like I was almost like in some way sending to the universe bad signals. Like, yes, I'm available to be someone's friend, but I'm not relying on my own skill set that, hey, once this lockdown is over, it's actually going to be chill. It's going to be fine. And you just can go and tap into your authentic self and essentially treat everyone as a friend, and then unless they show you otherwise, treat them as a stranger, going back to the hot take. So yeah, I feel like for a lot of people, they were lonely through COVID. All right, let's move on to segment 2, the scams. All right, so I had a question come through and it was like, what is the biggest lie we've been told about making friends? Okay, one is that high school friends last forever. That is like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Also, low key, again, 2-factor, keep this in the vault. This is very, very controversial. Like, actually, no, that's me being dramatic. It's a bit controversial. But I think that if you're still friends with, like, if all your friends are still from high school, like you don't hang out with anyone other than your school friends, it's a little bit cringe. I don't know. It's like you're trying to tell me that you're still trying to like you couldn't branch off from your year 7 like science class. Like, come on. Like, there are so many more beautiful, outgoing, amazing, different people for you to share your stories in your life with, and you're trying to tell me that you're still going to stick with like the same friendship group. I don't know. It shows a lack of growth, personally. I don't know. Some people might be like, okay, well, I found my people in high school, you didn't, you must be just jealous. No, I'm being serious. You're trying to tell me that every situation you go into is going to be a little high school? No. Okay. The second lie is that it is hard. It is hard when you obviously have contextual circumstances, aka a lockdown, okay? AKA like you're in some situation where you're actually physically secluded, right? Like if you're in solitary in jail. But even people in jail have friends when they go out and they like are at the gym, if you know what I'm saying. Like making friends isn't hard. It's actually signals that like you give out. And I kind of want to go into that into my actionable steps. So I'm not going to give that too much. It isn't that hard. You make it hard. Oh my God, I sound so David Goggins right now. It's actually really funny. You know that when he's like, stop being a bitch. Like that's exactly how I feel right now. It's not that hard. And third, it's only for extroverted people. You know what's really funny? I was an extremely shy kid from ages 0 to 7 to 8. Dare I say even year 7, I was shy. Like I was one of those people that like my mum would try and train me to be like, okay, like Kushi, I want you to now order your Macca's Happy Meal by yourself, and I couldn't do it. Like I would stand behind her and wait. And it's funny because I look at myself right now that talking, making friends, being more outgoing is my greatest asset. Yet I actually train myself to be like that. Or if anything, my parents forced me to go into extracurricular activities to become my extroverted self. But what I'm trying to say is I was very introverted. And I think like a big part of me being comfortable making friends was actually being uncomfortable in making friends. So what that means is, yeah, I had to pack up and leave and reintroduce myself a billion times. My parents literally, when I tell you like, sent me to do dance and they were like, now do horse riding, now do cadets, now do this. And all of those particular situations make you want to interact with people. You can't be in cadets and not talk to your platoon member next to you, to cadet next to you. You can't be lost in the bush and like not having anyone to rely on. You need to be able to talk to others and then bond from there. And the thing is, when you think about like, even when you're at a networking event or even when you're at the airport, whenever you go into a shop, there is a lot of probing that goes on, right? When you're trying to get to know someone, you say, where are you from? Like, actually, not where are you from, but like as in like what area are you from? You know, like what school did you go to? Do you know say? You're doing this probing in order to find that commonality. Again, I don't want to give too much away, but that's going to go back into my actual steps. Essentially, it is not just for the extroverted. I think if you are an like intrinsically introverted person, it can be harder at the start. But think about a lot of extroverts just got a bit more practice in just probing and getting a positive response from probing. So if you're introverted, it's just practice. And sometimes you'll get a yes, sometimes you'll get a no, but it is practice. And I think at the end of the day, talking to people is inevitable. You can't really ignore it unless you have some really good noise cancelling headphones and you're giving that energy out. But essentially, yeah, I don't think it's only for the extroverted. Another question I have here is, have we been sold the idea that friendships should be effortless and that actually making it harder to maintain real connections? Okay, I think making friends is actually not that difficult. I think sustaining and maintaining real connections can be difficult. What I mean by that is that people always put, I think, especially if it's an introverted, extroverted friendship, where you know that someone is like primarily shyer than the other person, they're still friends, but to make that connection work, you almost feel like that burden is felt for the extroverted person that needs to reach out, right? And I feel like that can also be hard too, but it's like, okay, is that the role that I'm going to decide to play because I do really enjoy the company of this person? Well, yeah, that can be hard. That's a hard aspect. That goes with relationships as well. It can be hard because of scheduling. If you really want to make it time for your friend and you want to be able to this is really funny, when you meet someone, you're like, you know what, I really would love for them to be a bridesmaid at my wedding because they would be perfect. And that's the sort of pedestal you want and you should and you you were aiming to put that person on, you need to be able to put that effort in, especially at the start. Like with the contingencies and life and just scheduling, it can be hard, but nothing good came if it wasn't hard, if that basically makes sense. So yeah, I think making friends, making connections, just being outwardly like nice to people. Like for me, like if you're nice to me and I'm talking to you for a little bit, like I will consider you my friend. The real test happens when, are you a real friend? Are you a best friend? Are you a close friend? Those are the people that I pick very, very carefully. I don't really believe in acquaintances, really. I actually, like, I go back to my hot take. Everyone is a friend until they treat me as a stranger otherwise. The close friend and the difference between a friend and a close friend, there are those different factors, like how have you been there and showed up for me, and how have I been there and showed up for them? That's what's going to really test if someone's a close friend. But yeah, I think like normal friends are effortless. The next question I have here is like, do you think friendship apps, networking groups, and community events are actually helping people connect, or are they just monetizing loneliness? Period on that last part. Sometimes, you know what, it's all capital gains, isn't there? It's always someone making their bag when it comes to making friends, you know? But like, look, you gotta make do. I mean, at the end of the day, like COVID really set a lot of people back, and they actually need those sort of, dare I say, manufactured environments to actually just meet good, safe, not criminal, like worthy people, if that makes sense. Like not bad people, like in the sense of like they're good people. Sometimes you need to have those manufactured environments for safety, right? So in some ways, yes, some ways, no. Like I think community events, finding clubs, finding like shared interests is great, because at the end of the day, shared interests allow you to find a sense of commonality and therefore relatability, and therefore be able to feel okay and safe and comfortable to be yourself and therefore someone else. I saw this thing where it's like for humans, the reason why we want to tag along with people that have those commonalities with us is because it's the idea of protection, right? Birds of a feather flock together. I think that's the saying, but it's the idea of, okay, if I know that you share this common thing with me, if something goes bad, I have this like gut feeling that you might protect me if things go wrong in a secluded or a scary environment. That's kind of like inbuilt in us, right? Obviously that's for survival, but I understand where connecting and wanting to develop those close friendships with people who do have those shared interests, and on top of that, those shared values, I understand that. So sometimes these community networking, even friendship apps, dare I say, can actually help. But it's all about finding that right balance. Okay, actionable steps. Now, before you think about, you know, going on friendship apps, networking groups, community events, obviously we're not in a lockdown, I want you to think about how comfortable you are in the situation or the intention of making friends. I said this in my YouTube video back when, pardon me, where it's like, if I'm having a really off day, I'm probably not wanting to make friends that day. I don't probably want to speak to anyone. I probably want to just shy away and just rug up and be, and you know, essentially be introverted. I will tap into that energy. I'll tap into that 0 to 8, 9, 10-year-old cushy, and that's okay, right? But I'm not comfortable that day wanting to seek out friendship. Yes, in some ways I'll be open, but in terms of setting the intentions, right? Like when you think about it, talking to people is all about intention as well. So what I mean by that is if you're really thirsty and it's like a scorching day like it is today and you're desperate for water, you might ask a stranger down the street, oh my God, where's the closest place for me to go get water? Right? There was a fact, a reason, an intention for you to go and speak to that person because that situation popped up. So if you think about your everyday life, it's like, you know what, today I'm going to make a friend, I'm going to talk to someone, I'm going to make an effort to do that. That reason or your intention set, you also need to make sure that like you are in the proper mindset to act on that intention. What I mean by that is if you're in a uni class and you're not feeling like your best self that day, and what I mean by that is like let's say you're like, oh my God, I hate my makeup or my hair. You're going to be too occupied about that. And that might translate and project out and your energy just might be bad. Your signals that you're giving out might be bad and therefore making you look standoffish and therefore making it really hard for you to make friends. So be comfortable in yourself, feel great that day, and hopefully that will help make you feel comfortable to make sure you can act on your intentions of making friends. That's your first actionable step. The second thing is really random. I'm actually going to pull my phone out because I was listening to it on the way here, and I don't want to take credit for it because it really did, as someone who's still like, I would like to say I'm pretty good at making friends, but I'm always there for that self-improvement, you know me. This particular book, insane. So I was actually listening to it. I didn't read it, but I was listening to it. It's Better Small Talk, Talk to Anyone, Avoid Awkwardness, Create Deep Conversations, and Make Real Friends. It's by Patrick King. I just downloaded the PDF and then I just like listened to it in the car. I think you can also listen to it on Spotify. I highly recommend. I like to think about friendships really intertwined with, or making friends intertwined with being just good, being a good yapper, being able to break the ice. And that particular book, if you listen to it, has some amazing examples of how to break the ice, and kind of like making sure that signals that you're giving out are translating as not creepy, if that makes sense. Because it can be weird talking to anyone, right? It can be weird. You don't know how someone's going to react, but you want to make sure that you are talking in a way that makes them feel safe, makes you feel safe. And at the end of the day, it can really curate that beautiful magical moment of you making a friend. So I definitely recommend listening and reading to that. You know what? I would read that. Enough with this watching and listening. You should be reading. We should tap into our reading era. So that is the next thing. So being able to also work on your conversational skills will allow you to also essentially branch out and make friends. The third thing is signaling, right? Now, the example I'm going to give here goes back to relationships, but let's just think about it in friendships too. There was a study and they said they had a model in the room and then they had a non-model, okay? I'm not like beauty in the eyes of the beholder, but I'm just saying this in the study where they had the most like gorgeous, superficially photographed, you know, literally makes money off what this person looks like. And then you got someone else who might just be, I don't want to say average or mid. I don't want to be cancelled two-factor. Don't tell anyone I said that, but you know what I'm saying, right? The model, they asked her directly, hey, just seem standoffish. Have your arms crossed. Like, don't have your head like essentially looking around the room. Seclude yourself. The person who may not have all of the bells and whistles that this person is obviously being able to monetize off from their looks, open body language, being able to smile at the people around her, being able to be kind to the waiters around her. She was really giving those signals that she was open and vibrant and charismatic to allow people in. Had more people approach her at the bar than the model. Isn't that so interesting? So it's actually all about signaling, because I think signaling equals safety, and safety allows us to be ourselves and comfortable with new people, essentially, right? When we feel like someone might be intimidating, that's when we kind of put a bit of a face on and we kind of seclude ourselves. We tap into our introverted selves. Dare I say that everyone is introverted and everyone is extroverted. It's tapping into what part of that spectrum you feel like at that certain point in time. And I would say third is just look back. If you already have existing friendships, but you're actually just listening to this episode to just branch off, maybe you're moving to a new country, new job, whatever it might be, sit back and look at how your current friends interact. What makes it so special? So for me, a big part of like my current friendships is being able to talk about anything and everything. The yapping part. So being able to be a good conversationalist, being able to switch between topics as well, listening. The other thing for me is humor, right? I find it really difficult if I can't relate to someone's humor. And for being able to, if I want to transition them from a friend to a close friend, they have to really understand my humor. And sometimes it can get a little bit, but that's essentially the difference between someone that I really want in my inner circle and someone that I probably don't. Doesn't mean that it's wrong, but that came from observation. I realized a lot of my really, really amazing close friends is because we had that shared humor aspect. For a lot of people, it could be trauma, shared trauma that you've both gone through, whether that's really like tragic or something that's trauma as in like, I don't know, like a really poor substitute teacher in a class. I don't know. It could be anything. But again, like, is that what has allowed you guys to actually interact and become this sort of flourished friendship? Observe. That's essentially what I have today. And you know what? Dare I say that I am qualified to talk about this? Because there was a time I was a loner. And there was a time that I wasn't. And there may be a time that I am. But what I can say is making friends as an adult is weird. And it can be hard. And it can be downright awkward. But if you can really think about that everyone is your friend until someone gives you a reason not to, you'll actually realize there's a lot of people waiting for you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Keep it two-factor. If you want, or if you don't want, follow us on socials. You'll see a few more snippets where I'm yapping and yapping. And yeah, thank you so much for a wonderful first season.